Hello everyone, welcome to another Godforge video. Today we have a really cool leak for Halloween here. A boss was completely given to us content creators, the kit and all. This is the Desecrated Daimyo. We're going to be looking at his kit today and my insights on how to tackle the boss. I have an example of a rare only team that uses the champions from the alpha, and we'll talk about other champions from the alpha that should do well in this boss as well. There was a lore package also dropped with this boss. It's very interesting, but I just don't have the time to dig into it yet. So expect a future video on the topic of lore. So I think there's a lot of cool lore stuff that's implicated here. There are timestamps to jump below between the parts you're interested in, and let's get started. The Desecrated Daimyo is likely the Void Ascension material boss, considering he is the last boss on the Ascension boss page in the latest Fateless video that's out at this point. And his affinity is Void, which is in the leaked screenshots that we'll get to in the future. This is his kit here. A quick summary of the kit is there's an AoE that puts initiative down for 1 turn. His core does speed down for 2 turns in AoE. Now his ultimate is the point of the character, is he removes all debuffs and put a barrier on top of him, and then it reduces the divinity cost. So this is a scaling vector here, right? This is a clock. This is the enraged mechanic. With the barrier up, he gets a few perks. He gets divinity whenever you hit him, which is terrifying, right? 'Cause it's going to feed into this like clock. And then he heals himself whenever attacking under barrier. And he is most likely to do ultimate into an attack. So every time he ults, he's going to heal as well. So expect to be a barrier and a heal. And then he has a 50% chance to counterattack under barrier. It is reduced if he's not under the time buffs, right? So speed initiative. Notice he doesn't give that to himself. That's because he has ads. He has 2 ads. He has a Desecrated Acolyte and a Desecrated Guard. It's a Shinigami and a Tengu. The Acolyte gives him speed up and does less damage than the Guard. And then they have cool passives when they die. They actually hinder the boss. So when he dies, he increases the divinity cost of Daimyo by 50%. Or by 50% of the total max, right? But this is by 500. This really sets him back. This is a scaling engine that gets faster and faster the more he does it. So sending it back 500 is a huge detriment. And then the Desecrated Guard does more damage, right? 50% more damage, and puts initiative up. So makes that, engine go faster, right? Makes him get his ultimate charges faster. And when it is defeated, he will reduce the current divinity of the boss to 0. This is very good, especially if you can, if it's very early on, you kill him, this could set him back 2 or 3 turns. The depth of this design is crazy fun. I have found a number of ways to approach this boss with no really correct answer. At its core, it is a resource control fight, with the resources being turn meter and divinity. He's trying to deny you your turn meter and divinity while giving himself ample turn meter and divinity. This boss creates an engine of speed control with a scaling vector of the ultimate. Let's look at how effective this engine is. Considering that Fateless was not afraid to scale Fafnir's speed in the alpha, it is safe to assume that the Daimyo speed will also increase as you climb the stages. In the latest Fateless video, he showed off the Hag's Hallow, and it should have had 15 stages. I think we can also consider that this will have 15 stages as well, right? So assuming that, I made this little chart here of, I think it's reasonable that his speed will increase by 5, and I wanted to show the effects of if you allow him to have speed up and speed down on your entire team at all times. So even at 100 speed, you will need 185 speed, effective speed, to keep up with him, right? And even at 170, you will need 315 speed to stay 1-to-1 with him, or a similar amount. So that's really not feasible, especially for like an Ascension material boss. You cannot have your entire team running at 300. That's not happening, Chief. And this is at all times. This can't just be for like one combat. This has to be the entire time, with your ultimates being drained. This isn't really in the realm of possibility. So we need to interact with this boss's mechanics, especially if it scales like this. And I think this is on the low end. I would not be surprised if this jumps up even higher to like 200, in which case you absolutely need to interact with this boss. But, for the sake of the video, let's just say, 170 I think is reasonable. Let's just talk about it like that. All right, this is the boss fight. Here's the Void Affinity we talked about here. So this is why I think he's the Void Ascension material boss. And the goal of the engine is to keep barrier on the boss. So you'll see here that his ads will give him speed buffs, right? This is speed and initiative. And then he uses that to debuff your team with his basic and core. And then the ultimate is the point of the engine. You will learn to fear this. Daimyo with the barrier up is very scary. Every time he attacks, he will heal 25% of his HP, and he counterattacks, which will also heal him 25% of his HP. You need to deal with this barrier. This barrier cannot be allowed just to stay on him. So, and every time he does ult, it ult gets faster. He's gonna do it more often. And when his ultimate cost becomes like 200 to 300, he will ult every turn. That is checkmate. If you allow him to ult every turn and get it that low, not gonna happen, right? You're not gonna be able to outvalue this boss. This boss is gonna outvalue you. Blind offense will be caught in a glue trap. Healing is a luxury. I would say probably only one person dedicated to support on the team. You need to balance your team between gunking up this engine and killing the boss in a timely manner. You need a lot of team slots to balance that. And if you can't, right, the boss is gonna run over you with this barrier. This barrier is actually terrifying. We need to cover one critical thing before diving in to the boss. There are 3 one-turn speed-based debuffs, right? So speed and initiative. And we need to talk about how that interacts with turn meter. When you have these buffs one turn on a full turn meter, it does almost nothing. And speed, in the case of speed, it can do literally nothing. And the initiative has such a small effect. They are more effective the lower the turn meter is. So that means we can expect the ads to go after the boss if they want to speed to the team to have max effect on this, which I imagine they will, right? But if you do the speed calcs on the speed that we represented, and I imagine most speeds those will be the case, this speed up is so heavy, right? With 30%, he'll actually lap the minions and go before them about 5 turns, which was in the first scenario, and then just loops here because the speed up isn't long enough to help him overtake the minions again, right? Because he only has it for like 1 or 2 speed ticks. So in that case there, I imagine they'll do some changes to stop that. So I think, don't be surprised if this becomes a 2-turn speed up in the early access, if it affects all allies to not mess up the speed tune, right? Because when you give speed up to one person, you're messing up your speed tune, like your turn order, right? And that's important when you give these 1-turn debuffs, right? Or don't be surprised if they just make the minions always go after the boss, right? There is enough ways to mess up his engine that I would not be surprised if they just give him a little bit to just say, okay, yeah, the Daimyo goes, and then these 2 always go afterwards, right? Without really considering their speed, right? So, you know, look out for this. As it's currently written, as I currently understand it, these enemies, their buffs won't matter. So, you know, I imagine they'll fix this. All right, let's dig into team building and see how we can foil his plans. Cleanse the speed down. This is a pretty good idea. This is a 2-turn speed down. It is 30% speed down. You can't really let this stick, right? Anyone remember the initiative down? It's 1 turn. Last slide. They're almost useless if you have full turn meter. What we are going to do is we're going to speed to the team to go directly after the boss. That's when our turn meters are the fullest. He does his initiative down, right? And then the initiative down is there for like 1 or 2 speed ticks. Boom. Other debuffs. Defense down. This is a defense-based boss. This is very cool. Not only does this increase your damage going in, it decreases his damage coming at you, and it lowers the barrier value. Absolutely critical for teams that have to deal with this barrier. Curse lowers the barrier value straight up 50%. These 2 together makes the barrier 30% of its initial value. It is crazy if you can bring the strong version of both of these buffs. That barrier is very weak. It's unlikely to lower his healing due to the cleanse on the ultimate, but you'll have to keep reapplying these every time he ults because he cleanses all the debuffs. Other debuffs to care about is drain. We have to run an offensive team against this guy. This is a race against time. Healers are a luxury. So don't be surprised if we need drain. Drain also increases the damage the boss takes. So, you know, this is a way to keep our Slayers healthy while also doing more damage. And then Corrupt, if we can just steal those buffs for teams that don't care about speed tuning and just want to like overrun the boss with like stat checks, putting Corrupt on the boss will stop that speed up, stop him from running out of control. So if you could turn the, if you could do cleanse the speed down, and then corrupt away his buffs, it really hinders him. Dots do full damage, right? There is no passive saying dots do 1/5 damage. However, one of these dots is weaker than the others, and that is bleed. He is cleansing himself very often. We are not going to get the full stacks of bleed on him. Acid seems really good. We probably won't get the bonus to acid. Acid does extra damage to barrier. However, he will put on the barrier and cleanse himself. It is unlikely that will be a relevant line of text. And I think Blaze actually has the case to be good here. I imagine all three of these, you know, the boss with the 2 ads are going to have a lot of HP, and there's 3 of them. So I think characters that could do AoE Blaze, that could be something that's worth considering. I wonder how effective this will be. And finally, the boss is not immune to locks. So you could ultimate lock, which is a premium. However, it is very difficult to do with the characters that we know about. Maybe there'll be a character that comes out that's like a ultimate lock expert, and then you just kind of ultimate lock the boss, and he's still gonna be dangerous, right? He's still gonna be doing a lot of damage, right? He's still gonna be slowing you down, speeding you up, but you'll take away the scaling vector, right? And you can probably run a slower team then. And there is also core lock, right? And core lock means that you don't deal with the speed down, right? So these locks are interesting. I don't think the alpha champions can reasonably do this. We'll talk about the characters that can do it from the alpha, but I don't think this is a consistent game plan because they have like a 20% chance to place them because it's 2 rares, and then there's a legendary that does it as well, but we'll get to them. Anyway, I see 2 types of teams that work against this boss. The question is, are you killing the ads? Yes or no, right? High damage teams should kill the ads, right? Because they don't have to deal with the barrier. I think that low damage teams will probably have to, you know, early on you'll have to probably go after the boss directly because it'll take too long to kill the ads and you won't get their effects very well. If you want to kill the ads, what you want to do is, boom, kill Shinigami first, kill the Acolyte first. This will raise the divinity gauge up. If you can kill this Acolyte in 3 turns, which I don't know how much of an ass that will be, the boss may never ult, because if you kill the Tengu afterwards, right, with like AoE abilities and then turning into single target, you will raise his divinity up, his maximum divinity, and then it makes him harder to ult, right? Because that ult, the more he does it, the faster he starts scaling, the more scary it is. If you can prevent the first ultimate or heavily delay the first ultimate, it really slows down the engine. While killing the ads, he'll also not get the buffs, and then boom, you kill the boss, right? For teams that cannot kill the boss, right, cannot kill the ads, you probably have to CC one of them, right? You should plan on CCing one. There's a lot of damage incoming, and you will probably have to have a way to deal with each of the buffs, right? So be aware of that. If you do not kill the ads, you're missing out on the very powerful death effects, but it may be just a necessary evil. You might have not enough damage to kill the ads and the boss. So, you know, expect more of the effects that were on the last screen here to jam up the boss, right? Expect to have more of these. Okay, cool. Let's talk about the team I have. This is a rare only team that I'm considering here. I think that King Tut and Ankh are, you know, they're a married couple in real life, right? They're doing work here. So the game plan for the team is we're going to do Acid as a damage dealer, and then his ultimate has Curse and Vulnerability, and he also has Drain on his ultimate. And then we have Ankh for the cleanse. She has to be A5 to cleanse the whole team. We're going to freeze one of the ads. We're going to keep ads on a permanent lockdown here. Shinigami here, bringing his entire kit. Oh man, Shinigami's kit just kind of works, doesn't it? He has defense down. He has Curse. He has Drain. He has an Execute, right? So hopefully that works on the boss, right? 10%. I don't know. It didn't work in the alpha. I don't think you could execute bosses. But if we can execute the boss, that's 10% HP we don't have to care about. And he also destroys max HP as well. And then finally, we have Guan Yu bringing the Drain, right? And bringing the damage, right? With his A1. So what we're going to do here is we are going to cleanse the speed downs. And we're going to speed tune our team to be just slower than him with the speed up 1. We're gonna make sure that Shinigami is not A3, so he is not stealing buffs from the boss. He's gonna be destroying max HP though, right? So hopefully that matters for the heal, right? That will lower the heal amount as well. And then Guan Yu's gonna bring the damage. We are going to CC the guard. The guard is doing more damage and accelerating the engine. And then we are going to tank the speed up. We're going to let him have speed up the entire time. We are not going to do the core on Scotty ever. We do not want to freeze the Shinigami. Now this team is lacking in survivability. So these are all going to be built tanky, right? And we're going to rely on the acid damage, and we're going to rely on the Guan Yu A1 with the drain. And then we will alternate the curses, because these curses are both on ultimates. So we'll have to do Tut's ultimate. We want to do it 2 turns before the boss ultimates. We want to have that full effect of the drain and curse, and then make sure the drain's on there, or the curse is on there for the ultimate. And then next rotation, we're going to ult again. We do Shinigamis with the defense down. Since these are the weaker versions, the shield will still have 60% of its power. So be aware of that, right? These are not the strong versions, but I think that there is enough here with this team that you can get the job done just by not killing the ads. You want to perma freeze. You can't freeze the Shinigami because it'll mess up the speed tune, right? You can't freeze the Acolyte. So be aware of that, right? We want to freeze the Tengu because it does more damage. And then don't be surprised if you have to put a few of these people into 6-piece shrine to stay alive. I think that set is just good on Ankh anyway. She has a shield on her ultimate as well, which will help with sustain, and the drain will also help a little bit with sustain. I also wonder if you put Guan Yu in 4-piece body when he does his max HP hit. I wonder if that'll heal the rest of the team, right? 'Cause it heals the team based on his A1, right? So this is my team I'd like to try first on a rare only team. We'll obviously have more people to play with during the alpha, right? It depends too on different speed tunes. Maybe the speed will be so fast that you can't just let him have speed up. And if that's the case, then, you know, this team doesn't work, right? Because this team would have to run at 200 speed, each of them. So, all right, cool. Let's talk about other characters that I think will do well, and then we'll call it a day. Dagonet has defense down and gives a random lock. It's very interesting, but lock core messes with the timing of your cleanse, so be aware of that, right? So I don't think Dagonet is a good defense down character for this, because if you lock core and you're using the thing I told you with Ankh to to cleanse, it won't work. Vokalok has lock ultimates on his core on Ascension 5, I think. And if you can lock the ultimate and keep it locked out for the entire game, bleed stacking is good then, and so you can use this as a primary damage dealer as well. Currently there's not a way to extend a targeted debuff. We have Bach, which, you know, you could get lucky and keep extending the lock ultimate. However, that's quite unlikely to happen, but, you know, keep this guy on the radar. Maybe there'll be a champion that extends debuffs, and if there is, then Vokalok will be very good for this fight, and you can just kind of shut off the barrier part of the fight and just focus on the rest of it. For epics, we have Osiris, because Osiris brings Drain and Curse without an ultimate. Very good. Very, very good, right? Then we have Mordred. Mordred has Corrupt on the A1. And then if you taunt, you're stopping a lot of damage from the ads. I think these ads are going to do significant damage. So if there's a way to, you know, obviously it doesn't stop the buffs from coming in, but just you can Corrupt to stop the buffs, and then you can taunt to stop the damage, or not taunt, but confuse. You do not want to ult the boss when the boss is under Corrupt though, because it'll cause him to counterattack, right? Because you'll drain his turn meter. So be aware of that. Musashi, high single target damage. That's it. If you are killing the ads, I think Musashi's gonna be really good because you can taunt the ad that you're killing, which means you're negating that damage. He's gonna be on a very squishy, high damage team. So he goes and taunts the ad. It's a defensive based boss, so he will most likely have more attack than the boss does. So, you know, he'll have all his conditionals met. I think Musashi will be very good. And once again, too, he's gonna have this, he's gonna taunt the enemy, get 2 ward stacks, tank that one hit for his team, and then he can tank the OE coming in from the boss, right? I think Leonidas is premium in this, with defense down and attack down, right? We talked about how important defense down is in this fight, and he has a stun, right, to deal with the ads. So I think Leonidas is phenomenal. And from the rare side, we have, I think Raw is gonna be really good. We have this really high damage, right? This is a damage race. You want to have a dedicated damage dealer, and Raw also brings blazes and can activate blazes. I think Raw is going to be very good in this fight. And in the same vein, I think Hell's going to be very good in this fight. The AoE curse is going to be very good, right? And the AoE curse is basically just cursing the boss while bringing just a ton of damage. Now you're probably not going to want to ult. You probably, because them being confused, they'll still give the buffs to the boss, but that's fine. I think the raw damage of the core and basic are worth it. For the support, I think Sphinx is really good. We're going to be reflecting the debuffs back to the boss, the classic Sphinx angle, right? Slap him back to the boss, and then we give AoE attack down to lower the damage of the ads. Like I said, I think these ad damage is going to be a real thing. I'm worried about the rare only team I give. I think the only angle that they struggle on is survivability. So, you know, being able to do that with Sphinx and cut it down is good. Speaking of keeping people alive, we have Heimdall, the king of keeping people alive. You have people like Musashi on your team. Musashi is a squishy boy. If you want to build a max damage, right, you're probably going to be, you know, running damage dealers like Raw and Hell. Heimdall keeps these people alive. It's very, very easy. And last but not least, I think the last one is Shamash. I think Shamash is really good for this fight. I think he might be one of the best for this fight if he has the support to back him up. You just core the Acolyte, and the Acolyte just kind of dies, because that's what Shamash does. You bring in like Raw, Hell, Musashi, Shamash. That Acolyte is not long for this world, right? Especially if you core with Raw first, the blazes go out, and then you do the taunt with Musashi, so he's ignoring defense, and then, you know, the Hell curse, and then you just like, all right, cool game, boom, right? Yeah, so that's kind of my take on the boss. I think it's very interesting. I thank Fateless for like sharing the entire kit. I'd like to know what you guys would think in the comments below about this boss and my take on the boss. And, you know, like and subscribe if you want more of this content. The lore video side of this boss will come out soon. And yeah, so take care, happy Halloween, and I'll see you guys later.